Hello, welcome back to the Mr. Arsenal podcast for the very last match reaction / review of the season until it comes to Arsenal anyway. As you can see, I'm joined by our regulars in terms of Steve and Andrew. How are we doing, guys? And yeah, it's over now.
Yeah, doing right. It's all over.
Good, thank you very much. Good to see you both.
And you. And you.
It's been a while since we've been together.
Yeah,
the sort of last couple of months of the
April.
season sort of flown by, isn't it?
Yeah.
Definitely has.
Yeah,
Definitely has. Lots to talk about.
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah, just a tad. Not just on Sunday, but in general since and before. But especially, we're going to start with, before we get to the match, there's a bit some news today. Good news by the looks of it, by David Ornstein. He's tweeted out today that basically Arsenal have no intentions of all these rumours, all these reports going for the last few weeks that Arsenal are looking to get rid of ESR, part of their clear out. David Ornstein has put that to bed and said he is going nowhere. He is in his words, a big part of Arsenal's season. They want to get in the pre-season. Hope he stays injury-free, and he's a big part of our season next season. So a lot of us, Andrew, Steve, myself, and Lottie as well, if she's watching or listening back, are ecstatic today with that news.
It would have been mad. Sorry to jump straight in, but you know how I feel about him. It would have been absolutely crazy to even consider getting rid of him. And when you're talking about buying players like Mason Mount for 50, 60 million pounds, it is just ridiculous. When you look at Mason Mount, the player that he is, the positions he plays on the pitch, we've got someone from our academy in the squad who is even better than him, in my opinion.
Thank you. Someone that agrees with me. The Mason Mount rumours have been doing my head in because he doesn't strengthen us in any way whatsoever. If anything, as you say, he would have pushed that ESR, but thankfully that ain't going to be happening because if we could put it this way, and I think it was Roy King said it on Sunday. I've seen a clip go around after Sunday's games were done and dusted, and his words were, he can't even get into this Chelsea side. So how is he going to upgrade Man United or an Arsenal?
Exactly. He's not the player that ESR is, and we've seen with our own eyes, and everyone that, not even non-Arsenal fans can view the impact that ESR had on our team last season and the effects he was having when he started and when he came off the bench. That he was for a long time last season, he was our top scorer. I think he finished the second top scorer. And for the first time in 5 years, he's now paying free. So why would we even entertain the idea of getting rid of him at all now? It just doesn't make any sense. He doesn't get in. I mean, Mason Mount is just not fit to lace his boots for a start. But the only other thing that annoys me just slightly this season was the fact that Fabio Vieira was playing ahead of him a lot of the time when I don't think it was justified. And we said this before. We said it last time we were on together, Ryan. The only justification I can get from that at all in my head is that Mikel Arteta has to, use the word justify the £35 million price tag that he paid for Fabio Vieira. He doesn't want to be left with egg on his face. He desperately wants Fabio Vieira to succeed, as we all do, but not to the detriment of ESR and his career. So that's the only disappointment slightly that I had with this season. But I just think that it's great news. It's the right news, and I'm looking forward to seeing him next season, starting with the pre-season. Hopefully he has a good one and really starts the season on the front foot.
Be interested to see what position he ends up playing. There's talk of him playing in a different position to where he was, so maybe that's something in the pipeline as well, learning a new way of playing. It'd be crazy to swap him for somebody like Mount because you're not upgrading, are you? So
no.
What's the point of that? And all that money on Mount, not be any better off. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
And all I'm going to say on that is as well, to add to that discussion about positional wise, it was obviously I was at the game with obviously 60,000 fans on Sunday. So he suggested he put days mixed up nearly on Sunday, and when he came on with Fabio Vieira, he did drop into the pivot. So it does look like maybe he's Arteta's thinking long term wise he could be the ideal replacement Again, so just, look, if that does work. If that's the case, it does work. Look, in the long run, how much are they going to save us in transfer fees and all that with someone else? They will have to bed in and things like that because it might come from abroad or whatever.
I think we'll be signing a couple of Premier League players personally.
Yeah, Casado. As long as Casado's one of them, I don't mind. Get Casado. He's a main guy. After what he did to us the other week, get him in, please.
Wouldn't be surprised if some sort of gentleman's agreement when he signed his new contract in January that if Arsenal came back in for him, he'd be allowed to leave at a reasonable fee, which won't be cheap, but he's a quality player. You know, especially if Zachari's going, which looks like he is, and there's even talk of Party moving on, isn't there? So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. The way he's finished the season, and when the push comes to shove, he's either been injured or his form has dipped so badly that it's just unbelievable. So I don't think that's going to go down very well with Mikel Arteta, because he needs people and wants players to be ready for the fight, doesn't he? And he's not going to look at the way that we've collapsed the last 2 seasons and look favourably on the way that Partey's played. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's had good periods of play, hasn't he? But when it really comes down to crunch time, he's not been there. And last 2 or 3 games he's been playing right back. And I can't see him being a right back going forward. So
no, I can't either.
So we've got questions just coming from Colonel as well in the chat. He's saying there's rumours are PSG and Bayern want Odegaard. Would you sell him if you got over 120 million for him? If it meant we get Maddison new or Wolfhouse new?
No.
Just new.
We're building for the future. We need to keep our best players, and these players have shown that they are knitted together like a family. We don't want to be starting again and gutting the team, because they'll all have to take time to bed in, get used to the team, get used to where, if it's a new country, for example, get used to Mikel Arteta and his ways and the way he wants them to play. We need to hit the ground running next season, big time. So to completely change, because we just talked about possibly changing Partey. We know that Granit Xhaka's going. Why would we sell Odegaard? Because that is our entire midfield that we've had the entire season.
Yeah.
So do we really want to be looking to change our entire midfield in one foul swoop? And especially when one of them is our captain, who looks like one of the best players in Europe at the moment in his position. We want to be adding rather than detracting too many players, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's all about strengthening it, not about starting again, is it?
No.
It's why would you sell? We're not in a situation now whereby we have to sell out. In situations before when we've had to sell our best players, we couldn't keep our best players. Now we're not in that situation. We don't have to sell to anybody. Barcelona and Bayern Munich come in for our best players. We can say no.
No, we're just as big a club as you. We're going to prove that over the next few seasons. Why would we give our best players to anyone at the moment? There's bound to be some players that we need to get rid of. Like as you said, we need to be adding players rather than subtracting too many players. There's going to be a few, though. Players like Tierney, we know that he's probably going to be on the way out. Rob Holding, a few other fringe players that have been on loan, etc. But the core of our team that have been starting week in, week out all season, no chance. We don't want to get rid of any of these players. We need to add rather than subtract when it comes to those.
Yeah. You need to be adding players that push those players to another level, don't you? You want a player that's going to push Saka to the next level, don't you? Somebody else. We've got Trossard and Martinelli who've got the left-hand side pretty sewn up. So you want players who can come in and actually add to the team rather than replace somebody.
Exactly.
You can see the sense. And they're all on decent contracts now. So apart from Saliba, they're all on 4 or 5 year contracts, not like that. So no pressure to sell them.
No, none at all. And especially our very best players. And by all accounts, I think Odegaard's favourite to win the Player of the Season. And quite rightly so, with I mean, the output that he's given us with goals and assists on its own. I mean, he's doubled his goal and assist tallies from the previous seasons in one. Turned it around in one season and just added that to his game as well.
Yeah.
He's not even in his prime yet, really. When you think about it, 24 years old, he's probably got 2, maybe 3 years away from his proper prime. So no, we really no amount of money should get rid of players like that. Should be enough to tempt us.
It's his first. He's done all that as well. What you say, Andrew? He's done all that, and he's with the added pressure of being the Arsenal captain in his first proper season because he came as part.
Yeah. I don't think he's shown any sign of wanting to move on, has he? I don't think there's been any rumours he's not happy or he loves the club. He loves leading the club. And now he's going to play in the Champions League next season. Why would he want to move?
He's finally found his home, in his own words.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We came in for him when nobody wanted him, relatively speaking. So fair play. So no, there'll be plenty of other players. I mean, there must be 5 or 6 players that will be going or loaning out again. So there's going to be 2 gaps for some quality players to come in, no quality players to go out.
No,
not really. I was going to say, literally, it'd be absolutely pointless for us to go after the first attempt at a title out of nowhere. By the way, again, we keep saying it's out of nowhere this season, this title charge. Oh, we missed that by a few points. Okay, everyone, you're out, you're captain, you're gone, boom, 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 and let's restart again. It'd be pointless. I've been saying to people, people down the road, I'm walking down the road, and they see me wear this or whatever, and it's like, oh, how can you be happy? It's like, well, considering where we were in the last 3.5 years ago when Arteta came in, when we were basically going down the mid-table route. As a mid-table club, we're getting nowhere near. We're going backwards, if anything, not going forward. And when Mikel came in, we had so much disharmony in the not just as club, but in the squad. Too many clicks. He's come in, tore that up, brought his players in, kept the players he wanted to keep, including, against many fans' wishes at the time, a certain Granit Xhaka. And now on Sunday, Arsenal fans, to a man and woman and child, when he went off in the second half, were begging him, chanting and begging him to stay. And who would have thought that 3.5 years ago? We said at the start of this season, the redemption arc and all that, and he obviously back into last season, he didn't want to leave unless he'd done something special with the club. Obviously, ideally, he would have wanted to live that league title with us before he left, but obviously that can't be. But he's the manager's turned things around. So he ain't going to just go, well, I've done all this in 3.5 years. All right, then. After one really out of their season, in terms of out of nowhere, we've done amount of time, pushed not anyone, but Man City, a state-run coverage. Again, me and Andrew spoke about this last week and all that debacle. And we got, 4 or 5 points in the end difference?
Right, 1 win against Man City would have won us the league.
Yeah, effectively, yeah.
Well,
and
1 win,
feel a lot better.
went away, and that's what we've got to build for next season. That's why we can't be selling our best players, because he's got to come up with a plan of beating Manchester City next season. He's got to just basically study how Brentford play, because they did the double over Man City this season. So just need to copy them. But
we're just going to buy more Man City players, though. Cancelo and Gundogan, and have half the side of Man City players. So Man City's bench could be playing for Arsenal next season.
That's a good idea. Why don't we just gently buy all their players without them realising?
Would be a master player. Would it be a great idea? Wouldn't it?
It's funny though, isn't it? Because one win away from winning the league. That's, if you look at it that way, that's what it was in the end. They dropped. I mean, if we'd have beaten them and stayed ahead of them, then they wouldn't have gone so changed their team so much in the last 2 games, because they obviously dropped 5 points in the last 2 games, which is And we knew that there were going to be tough games for them. That's why it was so important to take it to the last game. But yeah,
I don't think they would have dropped those points if they needed to win those 2 games.
No, I don't think so either.
There is they had their whole first team on the bench on the game before Brentford, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think so either, to be honest with you. But
it's nice
it's
to
a
dream,
nice
though, isn't it? You're
exactly
talking about fine mark one. You're talking about one win.
one win against
and
Man City, one win, and that's all it will take.
we lost 4 points against West Ham and Liverpool. We were 2-0 up. You look at it like that, and you think that would have been enough, possibly.
Yeah, well, what was it? 5. I think we finished on 84. They finished on 89, so we're 5 points behind them in the end. That's really nice in a way to finish a season without like a double-digit difference between us as a team.
What was their difference last season? What was the Man City's winning last season? What was their? It was more than that, wasn't it?
Oh God, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, us personally, we were God knows how many points behind them.
It could have been 30 points. I would have to check. It's going to be 20 plus, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I was always desperate to get it to. I mean, and Ryan will vouch for this because I've said it on several podcasts before. I wanted us to get to a situation where we were less than 10 points away from Man City, and that would have been really, really big step forward. And we did it this season. So we just got to
make again, haven't we? That's our starting point for next season, isn't it? The target next season is, let's qualify for the Champions League. It's now about pushing City to the wire, isn't it? Last game of the season. So, and that's why you're strengthening the side, not potentially weakening it by selling your best players. So,
no,
exactly.
Yeah,
just quickly, I know Mr. Tom put a comment there. I was only joking, Mr. Tom, about Brentford and following their blueprint. But earlier in the season, when they beat Man City away, that was a great result. So I think they didn't play a chicken string game, as far as I'm aware.
They went full strength in that one.
Exactly. So it's only the last one in this last game. But yeah, I mean, you're sorry about your team going down as well, Mr. Tom. My commiserations. And I'm not being, I really wanted you to stay up, so I actually am disappointed you went down in the end.
I spent all Sunday evening trying to console him here on the live stream, like trying to perk him up, say, come back next year. I don't like jokes. Oh, dear.
And Junior Firpo, you mentioned Junior Firpo earlier, and I'm sorry, mate, but he's the worst fullback I've ever seen in the Premier League in my entire life.
And we had Andre Santos at one point.
Yeah, I know. That's saying something. So yeah, you've got to get rid of him, mate. Honestly, I don't even think he's good enough for the Championship.
Who is it? That lead scorer. Who is? Let's be honest. That's for another show, but still. Get to us though. Obviously, yeah. Again, just to end on that note of obviously why it makes no sense to sending our best players just to rebuild again. Me, it's just the media being the media. Oh, Arsenal, we're clicky. We'll say something negative. Get all the Arsenal fans piling in. Get the clicks. Get the views. I mean, today, what was it on Sky? Some random, some random in journal they hire was asked, who's at best odds to compete next season for Man City? And I shit you not, we weren't even mentioned.
No.
Man United with Ten Hag and whatever he's going to do in the summer with the ownership or whatever. Chelsea, who've just finished 12th by the way, and he hasn't got Potter. Look at what he's got to deal with. But hey, on Liverpool. But Arsenal wasn't even mentioned. It's just the media being the media because they know they'll get the reaction from the fan base in terms of what the hell you're playing at. And hello, if it weren't for us, City walked this 3 months ago.
I mean, what Chelsea are going to do? They're going to go out and buy another £200 or £300 million players and stick them in that team, which isn't the team.
Still not a striker.
11 individuals kicking the ball around. What are they going to do next season? Nothing. Pochettino hasn't got a history of winning trophies. Has he? League trophies, has he?
No, he actually didn't win the league with Paris Saint-Germain either as well on one occasion, which is almost like criminal. It's a criminal offence in France. If you're a manager of Paris Saint-Germain, you don't win the league, you get put in prison for that sort of shit.
Well, they just don't not win, do they? I mean, they just win it every year without foul, do they? I mean,
exactly, yeah. But
You know, if you can't win the team with Neymar, Mbappe, Messi, you know, all these other players up front, and you can't win the league, blimey.
I know.
You
And
should do well with.
they're linked with that Ugarte. I don't know how you pronounce his name. Ugarte. That I think it's an Argentinian midfielder from Portugal, from Benfica. I think he is. Yeah, they really need another midfielder, don't they? I mean, they're down to the last 155th. Like, it's unbelievable. And they what they really need is obviously defenders and then strikers, but they're still being linked with other midfielders. It's crazy.
Well, before we went
If
off
you
tonight,
spend all
there's
that
now.
money, sorry, I was going to say, if you spend all that money on players, but you end up with Havertz as your main striker, that tells you something, doesn't it? Really, you know.
Yeah,
So
I know. He's got a big job on there, and I can't see him turning it around in one summer.
No,
it'll take 2 or 3 years, won't it? 2 or 3 years of players going out, because who's going to want to buy the players they've signed on these big contracts? Who are they going to sell them to?
But no one can afford them. They're on 8-year contracts, all of these new players, aren't they?
yeah.
They're on retirement contracts, aren't they? Just play till they finish, don't they? Now,
I think. I mean, it's not even a joke. The Mudrik's contract will take him up to the age of 29. I think.
Yeah.
That's. I
so
mean,
to
that's
buy
just
him now.
mad.
Buy him now. What would you have to pay Chelsea to buy him out of his contract? 100 million.
Stupid
He's only
money.
played. He's not even played a full game yet, has he?
He's not scored a goal, but they've got an assist.
Oh, it's crazy, absolutely mad.
Yeah, we got
Shows you
Trossard.
how not to
That's what I
spend
call it.
lots
We
of
got
money.
Trossard.
Shows you how not to spend lots of money. Give somebody too much money and they just waste it. You know.
Well, let's just hope that they get found out and get the same levels of charges against them as Man City have for what they've been doing to football over the last 20 years.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's crazy, but you know, what's Man City going to get eventually in years to come? A few points docked. You know, I bet they don't retrospectively take away the championships they've won for while the illegal transactions have been going on. They won't retrospectively last 5 years, will they?
No, because they are, from whatever you think of them, for what they've done to football, same as Chelsea over the last few years, they are one of the star turns for the Premier League. And the Premier League have obviously brought these charges against them. And let's be honest, they've done it because of the threat of the government taking away the governance of the Premier League. So they think, well, shit, we better bring forward these, because I know they've been working on these charges for the last 4 years, so they say. But they were announced a couple of weeks after the government announced their plans to take away the government of the Premier League. So Man City are their biggest draw across the world at the moment because they've got the best manager, the best players, they're winning all the time, and they give the Premier League a good name. So they think, anyway. I don't think they do, because it's not competitive anymore. It's turned into another, France or Germany, in the way that they're winning leagues after league after league. But anyway, that's the situation. I cannot see them doing anything other than just a firm slap on the wrist and saying, "Don't do this again," and that's, we'll keep keeping our eyes on you in the future, type of thing. That's all it will be. Yeah.
Which is a shame, but that just proves that financial fair play doesn't really exist, does it?
No.
If you can stick players on 8-year contracts or allegedly get more income than you actually get and get away with it, then fair play to the other clubs that don't do that. Spend within their means. Liverpool's us. All the other Premier League sides. I mean, at least they try and stay on the right side, if you like. But it does mean that you don't win titles, unfortunately.
Tom in the chat, bit of a backhanded comment here from Tom, says, I read the small print of the Premier League rules. Only when Man City received their 1,000th charge will they receive a polite letter and a telling off on Twitter.
Very true. Very true.
Strongly worded letter.
Yeah.
Signed by Howard Webb.
If we celebrate too much, we get dock points, don't we? Or get fined.
Yeah, exactly. They'll find a way of turning it around and giving all the fine and docking of points to Arsenal somehow.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you competed with him this season when we announced it all, so it's your fault, even though you didn't take him out of it. How dare you? Next season, you're starting with a 30-point deduction.
They'll take it back to George Graham and his, in his brown envelopes or something. They'll try and go back to that far and put it all down to him somehow.
Yeah, we got evidence of a car park in 1972 with an envelope was passed between two players, two managers.
You are now
double has been wiped off. Double has been wiped off.
You are now officially out of business. You have to start from the
Isthmian League, which doesn't exist anymore. So it'll be like something like the Conference Division 2.
You have to do a Luton now.
Start back on the Hackney Marshes.
Yeah, you got to go all the way down to the bottom tier of the football pyramid in the conference. Go part time. You got to do a Luton.
Just imagine that Sunday League type pub side turning up to play Arsenal with Jesus and Odegaard on Hackney Marches. Imagine it.
We can't get rid of them, so they still have to play for us.
Yeah, they're on a 7-year contract. They can't never legally play, but they have to play.
You've got some like beating up old van pull up, and a load of blokes with beer bellies get out. They're still wiping the sweat off their thing from all the alcohol that they're sweating out from the night before. Yeah, they look around and goes, there's Bukayo Saka, Odegaard, Thomas Partey. I'm thinking,
these athletic.
So at least if they turned us over 3-0, we'd be on Match of the Day, wouldn't we? How the mighty have fallen. Bags Ed 11-3, Arsenal 0.
And it was the bald-headed, beer-bellied blokes walking off saying Arsenal don't like it up them.
Yeah.
You've got Bukayo Saka with his leg hanging off.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Don't worry, lads. You'll be fine next week. You'll be fine.
Legs just spinning around from the knee down because it's snapped in half.
Anyway.
We'll stick you in goal. Don't worry about it.
Aaron, come on. Out you come. In you go. You're on top now.
That's right, Kanu. Get stripped. You're on.
That would be a good thing, actually. We could bring back all the legends, couldn't we, in their 50s?
Yeah.
They still do a job down Hackney Marshes.
Dennis, Kanu, Viltord, Jens, come on, need you.
Paddy, you're at work. Come on. Got a short term.
Dicko. Nigel.
Yeah, Tony, take that mic off. Get your kit back on,
That'd be amazing. I'd go and watch that.
You would when you buy a ticket, wouldn't you?
100%. Yeah, I'd be down there on the side. Dog, standing there with my dog on the side of the pitch.
The only thing is, though, your dog will hear Bukayo, and you'll think, my name.
Start running onto the pitch, having a dump in the centre circle. Get Nigel Winterburn sliding through it. Like, oh my God, what's this?
Only on this podcast. Only on this.
No, you have to come to this pod to get all this kind of content. You don't get this anywhere else.
No. Oh God! But yeah, moving on. Back on to Sunday. What was your thoughts on the game itself? First off,
it wasn't a game, was it? We were just on in first gear and scoring for fun, weren't we? I mean, there wasn't really any threat from Wolves, really.
I mean, Xhaka almost a hat-trick.
We generally score 3 or 4 at the end of the season, don't we? Last season games.
Last couple of seasons, yeah.
Well, I got the prediction right last week, didn't I? I said 5-0.
Yeah, you said 5-0. Yeah. I had to go 6, but okay.
Jack was a missed kick away from the first half hat-trick, wasn't he?
He was. That's unbelievable, yeah.
Incredible.
That would have been literally like everyone in the footballing world. It's a set-up.
All you needed then was a red card in the second half just to top it all, wouldn't he?
Oh, God.
With Marin, the last game, retiring, I'll go out with a bang. Here we go.
Yeah, he should have got his hat-trick and then just gone in two-footed on someone and snapped the leg in half and then send-off. That'd be...
Don't worry, I won't be able to. You put me off, mate, but don't serve that suspension because I'll be either retiring or going elsewhere, another country. The suspension doesn't work anymore. Bye.
I'm going down to the Isthmian League anyway, so it's fine. It doesn't really cover me down there. But no, it was a great first half, really, wasn't it? I mean, it could have been better, like you said, Steve. And he'd be gutted not to have. He came onto his left foot as well. So
it was probably the 3 chances. It's probably the easiest one because he was right in the middle of the goal, wasn't he? Pretty much, he had a free shot at it. Left foot, and you just think that's going to rip the back of the net. But perhaps he just had that thought of, my God, my first ever hat trick, my last ever game for Arsenal, my first ever hat trick.
He's never got 2 in a game before in his whole career.
First time he's got 2, yeah.
So
he finished on 9 for the season, didn't he? He nearly had 6 players in double figures for the season.
Exactly, and you get strikers like that lot down the road by for 60 million quid who only score 1, and we've got Granit Xhaka.
Dodgy. He's a bit of a dodgy one. Let's be honest.
I mean, to be fair to him, he celebrated 4, stripping off.
Got booked every time.
Lovely bloke. Yes, what a return from Granit Xhaka, really. And I think the two assists that Trossard got put him on 10 since January, which is unbelievable, really.
Yeah. I mean, that's the positive, isn't it? I mean,
screamer, didn't he? He absolutely leveled one. And a great save, to be fair.
Yeah.
But he nearly got another one. So, it's a great game. I mean, like you said, Steve, we always do this on the last game of the season when the pressure's pretty much off. In the sunshine, we just get treated to some wonderful football. And we always generally win, 4-0, 5-1, whatever. It was a really fitting end to a great season, really, wasn't it? And the way that everyone stayed behind to watch the lack of appreciation from all the players and the speech from Mikel Arteta and Martin Odegaard, everyone was staying behind and chanting. And, the speech from Mikel Arteta, he's almost brought a bloody lump to your throat, didn't it? I mean, by the time you actually start talking, and when all the screaming was and the singing of his name was calmed down, you could see how it was really emotional, really, wasn't he, when he was sort of making that chat. So it's great to see that.
It's a great way to finish, wasn't it? Because it just sets you up to the start of the first game next season, doesn't it? That feeling on. And you go again. We could still be playing the Charity Shield, couldn't we? Community Shield. If Man City wins the cup. Eh?
Yeah. It's the same thing, just a different name now. But yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I'm just showing the age, didn't I? But we won it back then as well. But I mean, it's part of you don't want Man City to win the treble, but at the end of the day, does it really matter? They're going to win everything for the next, X amount of years. Keep investing the amount of money they're going to invest in that side. I just don't like Man United at all, really. So I'd just rather City win it.
I want to be at Wembley as a fuck United.
Well, the only way the one thing we've got to cling on to is that one day Pep Guardiola will leave Man City, and that is the biggest thing that will help us. And we've got to hope it's going to be sooner rather than later, because he's the key that binds it all together, isn't he? And we found to our own cost that when a manager stays so long, like Arsene Wenger did, obviously, how hard it is to replace that manager. And they're going to find a similar thing when they have to eventually replace him. It's going to be extremely unlikely they're going to find someone who will keep the level exactly the same, and it's going to carry on as it was. There's always going to be a bit of a dip. So we just need to work out a plan amongst ourselves how to get Pep Guardiola out of Manchester City. So everyone that's listening to this and watching it, just put all your suggestions in the box, and we'll see what we can do. Because we've got to get that bloke out of that club, because that's the only chance we've got.
I suppose if he if he wins the Champions League with Man City, he's got the lot, isn't he? And that might be the thing that might say to him, "Can I do it somewhere else? Can I do it on Hackney Marches with no money? I think
Imagine him turning up
Who's
in a
going to give me
battle.
£1 billion to go and build another side? I don't know.
Well, he's more likely to do what he did before and just take another year off and go and live in New York for a year or something like that, isn't he? And
Yeah.
Just in Italy the year later or something, try and do it in Italy.
Yeah.
Or Juventus or something. Because if that's the Juventus' thing, they want to win the Champions League and this, that, and the other. They're sort of falling off as well with everything they've been going through, especially this season with the point deductions of their own financial fair play situation they've got on over there. They're not going to be in Champions League next season, so he could take the year off, then get back into Champions League with Allegri, and he could come in and go, okay, this is what I need to do, boom, 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 and see if he can bring his style to Serie A and be what he's done in Germany, what he's done in the Liga, what he's done now in England. That's the big of League One.
Or if he does win the treble this season, he could be off, like you said. And right now, at this moment in time, Brazil haven't got a manager. Ooh. And there's been whispers in the past that Brazil and he would love to be Brazil manager.
I mean, the thing is, he's a very honourable man, isn't he, Guardiola? And if all this talk about Man City bending the rules, breaking the rules, that might be the thing that sort of tips him over the edge if he wins the treble. He might think, I don't want to be tarnished with all this. People turning around and saying, well, you've only won it because of all the money and because of all the, irregularities. You're not really the best manager because you've got an owner that can, make up the rules as they go along. They've got the money to do it. And he may not want part of that.
Oh, Tom's got a suggestion in the chat, sorry. Would be handy if he turned out to be a secret lifelong Leeds fan.
Well, Erling Haaland is, obviously, so he could have a word in his ear and say, look, let's both of us, let's go and save Leeds. So Erling Haaland and Pep Guardiola walk out of Man City and go to Leeds for free. No salary.
No salary.
I'll come and manage you for nothing. Erling Haaland will play for you for nothing. It's all out of love.
Yeah. Out of love and ego. Our egos are so big, we want to prove that we can do it in the Championship now. And walk it.
I know, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, though, and if you really wanted to challenge yourself, that's what you would do, isn't it? You'd go to a club that hasn't got the financial backing and try and do it at a lower club rather than just having the biggest pot of money, the best players, and turning around and saying you're the best manager. Well, really? I don't think so. Give it to a manager that doesn't have that sort of financial backing. And,
exactly.
Let's see how good. Mourinho went to Tottenham, and look what happened there.
Well, yeah, that's obvious. Anyone.
He's had another dig today as well. Mourinho at Tottenham, I'm loving it. Sorry, Jenna just asked him ahead of their game tomorrow in the Europa League final tomorrow.
The
why is he been so successful at the moment, but not at Spurs? Yeah. Spurs didn't have to win. They sacked me before a final, so that's why, basically. They didn't allow me. I don't know why. You have to ask them.
Yeah, that's bad. But yeah, I know Ancelotti, as Mr. Tom says in the chat, is going to be the Brazil manager. That's a lot of chat about that. That's what I mean. If it happened quickly with Pep, before that decision is actually made with Ancelotti, before anything's signed, if you've got a choice of the two, Ancelotti or Pep, which one are you going to go for? There's only one, really. I mean, no matter how good Ancelotti is, which he is, I love Ancelotti, to be honest. But if you've got the choice of the two, you're going to go for Pep, aren't you? Every day of the week.
Because he is, in terms of his style of play, he is Brazil elbow in terms of they would love that attacking, free-flowing.
Yeah.
If you go football, basically. They haven't had that for so long.
And they've got great players as well. So, again, you go into a situation whereby you're playing with the best players. You're managing the best players again, aren't you?
Yeah.
Apart from Richarlison, obviously, but,
There's always one bad egg in the squad.
He scores for Brazil, though, doesn't he? I mean, he scores for fun for Brazil.
Yeah, over it kicks and everything.
Yeah. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I can't see him going on next season. Even if they win the treble this season, I can't see him leaving next season. So, it would be good to beat them at their own, beat them with all the money, with Pep, and still beat them. Wouldn't that be a huge achievement?
Yeah, exactly.
Not only winning the Premier League, but beating arguably the best team on the planet right now, in Europe at least.
Going back to the earlier part of the show, that is what we've got to build for this summer. We've got to build a team that is capable and mentally capable, as well as technically capable, of beating Manchester City. Because that is where we fell short. When you think about it, that is what we had to do. If we could have beaten them once and maybe taken a point of the other game we played against them, we would be champions now. So this is what we've got to build the team for.
Fine line.
It's such a fine line. That really is. You know, for what all this talking and joking you've been talking about Pep and all that sort of stuff, that is the only opportunity we've got. Is if the Premier League do pull their finger out and work on these 115 charges, if it's proven to be that they have, cheated in those ways with all these charges that they've put against them, and if Pep is not happy about that, if he's somehow his name is going to be, he feels like his name could be sullied by working with a club that has done all that, regardless whether like Emerson, Alan Cozier in the chat there's put Pep is contracted 2025. That doesn't matter. His principles will mean that he will just walk out of there. He will resign and he will be gone. The contract will mean nothing.
He's put it out there publicly in terms of press conferences. He said that at a time back in February. If Man City, if a club had done this, I'll walk. I'm not convinced they'll get they're innocent. But if they're found guilty, I will walk.
Well, he's an honourable man, isn't he? He believes that they haven't done anything wrong, but if they have done something wrong, which seems to be the case, then he could quite easily turn around and say, "Do you know what? I don't need this," and he won't be short of offers. That's for sure.
No, he won't want to have his name anywhere near associated with something like that. He's a man of integrity. He'll be gone. 100% he'll be gone. We don't care what anyone says. If he has thought that they have lied to him throughout all this period, he won't work for them.
No. Well, we'll see. I think that this will rumble on during the off season, won't it? So you would think they'd want to have something resolved before the start of next season.
But
the
problem
it's going to be tied up in the courts, isn't it? It's going to be tied up in the courts, isn't it?
Yeah, it's their lawyers. They'll just kick the can down the road for as long as possible. And even Pep came out recently. I didn't actually read the article, but I saw a headline saying, "Pep, I want this sorted as soon as possible." About the charges. He wants it sorted. But it's the lawyers and the club are just going to kick this can down the road as long as possible. They're like me and Ryan said last week. They're even complaining that the bloke from the Premier League who's leading the investigation is an Arsenal fan, and they're complaining about that now. Saying we're not happy about it. We can't move, can't proceed with him. He's an Arsenal fan. I mean, come on, for God's sake! This could be going on for as long as they want it to go on for.
Well, they've got the lawyers, they've got the money to drag it out. They can argue, they can create all sorts of arguments about every single individual case, can't they? Probably. And but then again, you would have to think for the Premier League to come out and charge them, they must have some pretty solid data to back that up. Yeah. They would have done their due diligence going back over several years to look at all the irregularities, to be able to come out with a charge of 115 cases. They would think they've got a rock solid case, wouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But I mean, regarding the comments, Steve, Pep ain't leaving. It took 5-6 years to build such a squad. And then Stefan Harrington, right? Stefan said he wouldn't be in breach of contract. I mean, there wouldn't be such a thing as a contract if he'd been lied to by his employer throughout the whole period that he'd been working for them. He would just say they've been in breach of his contract as well. I mean, they wouldn't even. It would just be such a complicated situation but everything will be on Pep's side. If it's proven that they had been lying and that they had breached all these rules, then the contract would mean nothing at the end of the day, would it? I mean, his solicitors, Pep's solicitors will be able to say the contract is null and void because you've been lying to me for the whole period of time. Sounds
like a misconduct charge, isn't it? You're going the other way to the employer, isn't it? So
exactly.
And Pep's not going to be worried about being fined a year's salary, is he, or whatever what would be the penalty? he walked out with the 2 years left on his contract, he'd tear it up, wouldn't he? He's that sort of guy. He's that sort of guy. So
yeah,
it'd be interesting to see, and also be interesting to see, what happens with a few of their players that are going to move on and who they're going to bring in next.
yeah. I mean, this could all be moot point anyway because they're probably going to get away with it. They're probably going to get away with
Probably
it.
get away with it. Some
And
loophole.
This could mean nothing. So
Yeah. So all we can do next season is beat the best team on the planet. That's it.
Basically, yeah. Add a few. That's all we've got to do is add a few. Casado being one of them. Another midfielder, be that Declan, whoever. Another right back. That seems that will be able to do what Arteta's plan looks like he's planning to do in terms of he's got the inverted left back sorted now. It seems in the last couple of games he wants to go down the route of a inverted right back as well. So he's got the options of tactically switching up a bit. Obviously, big party for the last couple of games. Obviously, Wolves didn't do anything, so it's just like, okay, cool. So obviously with Ben White, but he obviously needs someone because Tommy Ashley's just made of biscuits. He is literally made of biscuits. His ankles, his legs. So I don't know how it's gone down that route, but since he first picked up an injury last season, he's not consistent enough, and we don't want another season where we're hoping that he's okay and we need him most. He's injured again.
what biscuits do you think they're made of? Just out of interest.
The creams, probably.
Bourbons, custard creams, Garibaldi's.
Yeah,
I like a Garibaldi as he goes.
Yeah, I reckon
short
Garibaldi.
Short break.
Is it nice or nice? The biscuits.
Going off on the
By the way,
Let's just settle with Rich T.
again, you will not get this anywhere else on any other podcast.
No other podcast are they actually getting down to the nitty gritty so detailed that we know exactly what biscuits Tommy Asu's legs are made of.
It could be an assortment, though, couldn't it? It could be more than one, couldn't it?
Well, it could be a mix, yeah. A bit of everything there, yeah. A bit of custard there, a bit of chocolate bourbon there.
Box of boxes, biscuits. Yeah.
I think next year he's sponsored by McVitie's, isn't he? Next year season.
It's like Leno's wrists. I think they were made of Garibaldi's, to be fair.
They're just made of paper. Literally nothing there.
No, but I mean, seriously, we need players that, if we lose a player through injury, it doesn't totally screw up the side. I mean, we lose Saliba, and it just seemed to unbalance everything, didn't it? What we need is players that can come in. No disrespect to Holding, but it's not him. Kiwa looks like he could be that sort of player, given more games. And we need another left back who can cover for Zinchenko.
I think it's going to be
Kivior.
I think it's going to be Kivior and Tomiyasu if he gets himself properly fit. No, genuinely, I think I'm happy with that. I'm cool with that, to be perfectly honest.
I would be if Tomiyasu wasn't made of biscuits.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
No, but
Kivior play left back, backup left back. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, because if you compare the Man City team that we're trying to beat and get better than, look at their options. They quite often play a back four of four centre backs. If you think about it, and I think if we get another right back because if we have, say for example, Tomiyasu or Kivior and Zinchenko is our left back options. We've got the Zinchenko type. We've got a more defensive type, if you like, who is also capable of sort of stepping out a little bit and making the passes. But if we've got on the right-hand side the Ben White, who is the more sort of defensive centre-backy type, we would need another Zinchenko type for the right back. The lad we're looking at over in Spain, whose name is escaping me.
Fresneda? Is it Fresneda?
Thank you, Fresneda. He could be more of a Zinchenko type, backed up by Tomiyasu and Ben White. So we'll have the best of both worlds, really, on both sides.
Cancelo is online at Bayern Munich at the moment.
I don't know whether that would. If you're Man City, you're going to sell him to Arsenal. I can't see it. They've been burnt already by us nearly taking them to a title challenge by the two players they've already sold to us.
Depends how arrogant they get over the next fortnight, I say. Depends how if the next fortnight goes as we expect and they're going to win Saturday and the following Saturday and they get beyond arrogant, maybe, just maybe, they might make that mistake again.
Be a nice double to have a pound on, wouldn't it?
Matchsticks. Yeah, reflex made of matchsticks. Matchmakers, I think. Do you mean matchmakers?
Yeah, I think that, like the minty, either mint
mean
ones.
matchmakers?
We're moved on to chocolate biscuits now, are we?
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
The Aeros legs are made of chocolate matchmakers. That's really funny.
Lost my train of thought now. What are we talking about?
Yeah,
Cancelo, obviously, come back to his own from Bayern Munich.
Well, he can play left and right back, can't he, Cancelo?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking
I'd love him to be. I mean, I thought he was one of genuinely thought he was one of Man City's best players. I thought even though he was playing as fullback, I thought he made them tick. As much as at one stage, as much as Kevin De Bruyne was on, the attacking third, I thought Cancelo was just as important in what he was doing for the team. So I mean, I would love it at Arsenal, but if you're Man City, I just can't see them selling another player to us as good as he is. Really,
No.
I'm absolutely gobsmacked if that was the case. But I would love it. But also, I read that they're asking 60 million or 70 million quid for him, which is for a backup fullback. I'm not saying he'd be just a basic backup fullback. He's going to be one that's pushing both very, very, very hard. Whether you're Ben White, whether you're Zinchenko or anyone else, he's going to be pushing to start. But it's a lot of money when you're considering we're going to be looking to spend a lot of money in midfield as well. If we are looking just really hard to get Rice, which I've got a horrible feeling we're not going to get him. I really have.
If you're going to spend 70 million on him, and you're thinking about replacing Tierney and Biscuit Man, then you'd cover that, wouldn't you? 35 million per back, wouldn't it? So
no,
potentially, you get one player to play two positions. So looking like that. But I'd like to see Tommy. Seriously, I'd like to see Tommy get a full season. So I don't think we've seen the best of Tommy, really.
We've got short memory sometimes. We just think about what's been happening over the last few weeks, and keep it in mind. But we seem to forget how good he was and how good he is.
He had a freak injury, didn't he? I mean, he got himself
really,
in a stretch, didn't he?
He did the splits on the pitch. I mean, it's very impressive. But obviously, it's broken his biscuit. It's like a bag of broken biscuits you get down the buy them when I was a kid. Broken biscuits.
Yeah, look, the pound bag. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like Tommy Asu's leg when you put in the bag.
The X-rated, that's what you see, isn't it? No, but I mean, we saw enough of him when he was playing well to think, he's a serious player. He just didn't play enough games.
I genuinely think he's good enough to be in the squad as part of our defence, but we've just got to keep him fit as much as we possibly can.
And do you think part of our problem this season was we couldn't rotate players enough? We didn't have enough players to rotate. We had to keep playing the same side literally over and over again, and fatigue starts to come in, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a whole summer to be looking at all the comings and goings of the team, but I really, really hope we do get Rice. I've just got a horrible feeling we're not going to get him because of all the other teams that will come in at the same time and just blow us out the water last minute. I really hope we get Caicedo. The same thing could happen, but in a funny way, I'm a little bit more confident we can get him than we am about Rice. But I think we really need Rice. If we're getting rid of Xhaka, which is almost 100% certain we are, you've got to think about not only replacing him as a player, because no matter what you think about him, when he's been out of the team, you can notice the difference, because he really does make a difference out on the pitch for Arsenal. But technically, and the actual football of the year, technically, hello. We can replace his quality, but we've got to also think about the leadership qualities that he's got that we're going to be losing. And Rice gives you not only would he be an upgrade on the actual player, but he's also got that leadership quality about him. He's obviously captain of his side. He's one of the leadership group of the England football team. You know, he's been to sort of, you know, World Cups and European Championships already at his young age. So that's why I really hope we get him, because he's not only replacing the player, but he's also replacing the personality in the changing room. So you've got.
He could be a European winner, could he? By the end of the season, he could be a European, Europa League player, couldn't he? Winner.
Yeah.
He could be,
Conference League, but that's more than Harry Kane's one.
I don't know if this is a compliment or a backhanded dig, but Mr. P's full Andrew looked like Keith Allen. And asking how your daughter was doing.
I'll take it. I'll take that. Keith Allen's a cool dude.
But do you think we'd go for both of them, though? Do you think we'd go for one or the other rather than try and get both of them?
We need both of them.
If Partey goes, then maybe that would be an option, wouldn't it, to go for both of them?
Yeah.
Well, even without getting rid of, again, we had this conversation, didn't we, Ryan? I think even without getting rid of Xhaka, I think we need two players coming in anyway, because we're definitely going to be getting rid of Sambi, it looks like.
Maitland-Niles again.
Oh yeah, obviously he's gone on a break anyway. We know that. I think we're already players short, so I think we need two players as it is. So if Granit Xhaka is going out the door, I think we need three. So I think we do need both of them, Caicedo and Rice, but whether we can afford them or not, I don't know. But we have got players that we can get rid of that will bring some money in when we go through the squad. Like you said, Steve, we've got, Tierney on his own could bring in between 30 and maybe 40 million if we send him to Newcastle. Even with his slight injury record, I think. Why not? Why wouldn't you try and get as much money out of Newcastle as possible?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, Tavares has had a good season with Marseille, hasn't he? I mean, he could go for 20, 30.
On and off, he has. Yeah, I think he started brilliantly, but ended up absolutely shocking, to be fair.
But you got Balogun as well. If he can't get into the side, he's a 30, 40 million pound player, isn't he? Right there.
Well, even Rob Holding, he's 27. He's in his prime. He's an English player, so fits that. I mean, he should be worth 20
Wednesday
million.
coming. I mean, you've got clubs coming up from the Championship that'll be looking for players like that, wouldn't they? Experienced Premier League players that are not ridiculously expensive.
Well, if he goes to Luton, doesn't have to move.
Yeah, I mean, so it'd be a good move for him. Wouldn't move too far, would he?
Yeah, this is comment as well. Obviously, we haven't mentioned it. Obviously, but, over the weekend, one of our loanees, Dalton Cuffy, played in the Championship final. For me, best player for Coventry over the course of the match.
Yeah, he was brilliant. He had a really good game.
Yeah,
I do think he really impressed me, but I do think he's probably another loan away yet.
Yeah,
maybe. But he shows promise, doesn't he? He's got the right physique.
Very much, yeah. I think Roy Walters has actually stepped ahead of him from the club's point of view. I think Roy Walters has got more of a chance next season. And the thing is, like we always say, no, these players are too young. They're too young. But when you think about Rico Lewis, who came into Man City's team and played a big part in the running, he's only 19 or something like that. They trusted him; he was good enough. So maybe some of these players need to be given a chance. And we've got the young left back as well, who looks really, really good. He can play the role similar to Zinchenko can. Again, his name is escaping me for some reason. The young left back we got him initially from West Brom. Maybe someone in the chat can put me out of my misery and give me his name, but he looks like an opportunity for the club as well, long term. So fingers crossed for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players out there that we've got, and obviously a few that we need to move on, isn't there? And you've got Pepe. What do you do with Pepe? What do you do with El Neni? I mean, you've got so many players, and collectively, you could be looking at 100 million, couldn't you, for all of them, potentially?
Well, I was listening to Handbrake Off podcast, the athletics podcast with Amy Lawrence and Adrian Clark. And I agree with Adrian Clark when he said we were talking about Pepe. I know that people take the mickey out of Pepe and all this sort of stuff, but when you compare him to other players that have come in from massive fees, he didn't do that badly at all. Now I don't think he's a long-term option for. That's it. I assume it's a thicky Steve. Thank you. Now I don't think he's the type of player that Mikel Arteta will want. Adrian Clark said he's not a troublemaker. He really wasn't as bad as people are making out for him to be. If push comes to shove and we end up spending a lot of our budget on the midfielders and that we're talking about, and we are struggling to get a lot of money in to the club, I would rather, if it meant paying Nicolas Pepe to go, giving him a big payoff and saying, right, you can go, or keeping him for the last season that he's contracted for, I'd rather do that because no matter what you think, he can actually offer us something. He did offer us something. Whenever he generally played, he was either assisting someone or scoring a goal. Really good record for that. So why not keep him around? I know people will say, oh, God, no, not Pepe. No, we need to move away from him. All I'm saying is if we don't get someone in for that to cover for Bukayo Saka, if it's a choice of either paying Nicolas Pepe off to go, paying up his contract, or keeping him around for the last year of his contract, I'd rather do the latter. I mean, I don't know
rather give Reece Nelson more game time rather than Pepe, though.
Yeah, but I think he's more effective coming from the left, Reece Nelson.
Yeah, but that means then you've got three, haven't you? Trossard, Martinelli, and Reece Nelson.
Yeah, but it only takes one or two injuries, doesn't it? Like we've had this season. We never have everyone available. We never have everyone available, do we? It's always the case that there's always someone he can fill in for, and I think he's intelligent and good enough to play in a number of different positions. Reece Nelson, but I think because he's right-footed, he's much better to come in from the left on his right. Rather than playing from the right-hand side.
I do seriously think you need somebody who can push Saka a little bit rather than just do the shoehorn into the side.
Absolutely.
I think he just needs somebody that's on his shoulder that can do the business when they come on. And I don't think it's Pepe, to be fair. I don't think he's going to be consistent enough to do that.
I don't either. All I'm saying is if push comes to shove and we didn't end up buying anyone for that particular role, I would rather do that than just pay him to go.
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
That's all I was saying. I'm not saying I hope we keep him and I want him to do this. I don't. He's not the sort of player that's just going to come in and sulk and cause a problem in the changing room. That's basically it. And rather than get him away for free, I'd rather use him for the last year of his contract if it came to it. That's all I meant.
Yeah. It's just another one on the list that they got to make a decision on, isn't it? Another one on the list they got a decision on. There's 6 or 7 of them that they've got to either sell or loan, haven't they? Really, and Badigan is another one. Does he come into the side and we have him, Nketiah, and Jesus as our 3 main strikers, or do we look, for another top striker to come in? Someone who's a bit more clinical, if there is somebody out there that we can get. And there's obviously going to be a few players. In which case, if that is the case, then you could end up with Jesus, a new player, and the other 2 go.
Yeah.
Balogun, you'd like him to stay, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. I think from what Colonel was saying there, Colonel, nice to see you, mate. He said we've got 3 strikers out on loan. Would any of them make it? Mika Beer, Tyrese John-Jules, following Balogun. We've also got Nikolai Moller as well out on loan. Who, there's a lot of hope in him. But Tyrese John-Jules, as much as I did like him coming up, he really reminded me a lot of like Kevin Campbell type when Kevin Campbell first broke onto the scene. and he was prolific. He was really powerful. With the, like I said, I was been on a podcast with Kevin before, and I've said about the size of his thighs. I said, Kev, honestly, when you were playing, you're the biggest thighs I've ever seen in my life, mate. He was really powerful, really strong, really fast running. And Tyrese John Jules, he wasn't quite as built as Kevin was. He did remind me a lot of his style, but I just think the time has passed for him. He's been on so many loans now. It never quite really sort of hits the grade. So I can't see him being a success at Arsenal, unfortunately. Mika Birov, do you know what? He's passed me by. The loan that he's been on, I haven't heard much about him, to be honest, which is worrying, because if he had been ripping up trees, I think we would have heard a lot more about it, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
I think maybe he needs another loan, but he was excellent at PL2 level. But too early for him. But obviously, then going on to following Balogun, he's had a wonderful season, incredible breakthrough season. I've got much more hope for him. But if you believe everything you read in the media, he wants to be first choice next season.
Not going to happen for Arsenal.
It's not going to happen anywhere, though, Steve. If he goes to any club, that no club will say you are guaranteed to be our first choice striker.
Yeah.
Every club you go to, you've got to earn the opportunity.
Well, unless he stays where he is, he would be first choice striker then, wouldn't he? Potentially.
Well, yeah, unless he stays where he is, because he's proven himself there.
Yeah.
But any self-respecting club is not going to say, yes, you are going to be our first choice striker from day one. You've got to earn the right to do that. But we've got 4 trophies to attack next season. We're always going to have, like we said, the best one in the world, touch wood, we're always going to have injuries. But without our main striker, obviously for a massive portion of the season, it's always going to be on a rotational basis, because if you're down to like Eddie and Jesus, if one of those goes down, the other one's got to play every single game in every single competition all of a sudden, out of nowhere. There's going to be plenty of minutes for everyone. I really would hope that following Balogun would see sense and say, look, or at least Arsenal give him an opportunity in pre-season when we go like on the tour to America or whatever. Great opportunity to play him there, because obviously he's going to be an American international player. So that will help crowds over there and everything as well, playing an American international up front. So give him a chance. Give him a chance to prove himself to us and say, look, there's a hell of a lot of minutes for you next season. We're going to be attacking on 4 fronts. So let's see what you can do. I'd love to see that, because at the end of the day, as much as I do like Eddie, he's been with us for many years now, and he's had some good opportunities. He had an excellent opportunity, obviously, when Jesus went down after the World Cup. Yeah. He initially did take the opportunity, didn't he? But he just, he always just seems to fade off after a few games. Not a good look when you are challenging for league titles. We're going to be challenging for the Champions League and everything next season. It's not a good look, is it? So I'd rather, although he's less proven overall in his career, I'd rather sell Eddie and keep hold of following Balogun this summer.
I agree with that. I'd rather give Florin a go this season, next season, and just see if he can do it. He's done it in France. Let's see what he can do in the Premier League. And in come January, if he's not producing, then we've got the option, haven't we? He's got a decent contract now, hasn't he? With us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we don't have to just give him away.
No.
Player like.
But it's either that or sell them both. And for a decent amount of money, we should get a decent amount of money for both of those strikers, Eddie and him, and put it all in for someone big. Like,
maybe an Erling Haaland.
There's going to be another Erling Haaland out there, isn't there? Somewhere we haven't found him yet, but there's going to be another prolific goal scorer somewhere. Now we've got the tempt of the Champions League now as well, haven't we? People say, they don't sign for clubs unless they're playing in the Champions League. Well, there you go. We're playing in the Champions League. We can pay decent money. to the right
We're in
person.
London. Well, hey,
Go for someone,
No,
you know,
we're challenging for trophies. What more would a player want?
well, if you think about it, if they were asking about 100 million for Osimhen or something like that, if you sell Eddie and Balogun for a combined 50, 60 million quid, which we should be able to by rights, when you think of how mad the market is nowadays, then that's half of the money towards an Osimhen, for example. You know, so
Yeah.
I mean, look at City. I mean, they bought Haaland. I mean, you could argue if they hadn't have bought Haaland, would they have won the league?
probably.
You think?
Let's be honest. Yeah, probably they won the league without a striker the season before. Didn't
Yeah,
have a
but-
striker full at all. You know, so
You'd like to think that made the difference. I mean, he scored what 200 goals this season or something ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, like,
256. Yeah.
you know, he's broke every
The league
record, and
alone.
he's actually won a trophy, unlike another striker who scored record
Yeah.
breaks of goals on
But-
Jack.
The Beehive said John Jules was the cat in Red Dwarf, and that's true. That was his dad.
It is, yeah,
Real life, that is his dad.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But yeah,
Steve,
you like to see young players come through, don't you? You like to see young players break into the side. We've had it with Saka and ESR and a couple of others, but you know, it gets more and more difficult, isn't it? Because the pressure on managers to win trophies is huge. To take a chance on a young striker, isn't it? I think they're more likely to go and buy somebody that's, you know, scoring currently in a big club.
How many goals was Haaland scoring when he was 19?
I
About
don't know, scored 9 in one game, didn't he? Something ridiculous.
exactly. That's when he was 17, I think. He was already scoring 40 goals a
As an
season
international.
at 19. So
Yeah.
you've always got to start somewhere, you know. And what more could Balogun do than go over to France? And let's face it, if he'd have gone to somewhere like Paris Saint-Germain, he would have been top scorer this season. But he's gone to a really struggling team, Ram. They were probably favourites, one of the favourites to go down before the season started. And he scored 20 goals in a struggling team, taking them right up the table. So, I mean, what more can he do, really, than
Well, you've
do-
had a conversation with Arteta, and Arteta would have said something along the lines of, I'm going to send you out to a club. Let's see what you can do there. If you do well there, then when you come back, you know, we're in a much better position. Well, he's done that, hasn't he? He's gone off, scored loads of goals. He's come back, and now he'll want to see him have a chance in the first team. Not as a first striker to start with, but he'd certainly want to see a few games, especially on tour, and you know, be on the bench, first choice off the bench, that sort of thing to start with, and see how he goes. You know, he's got to, you know, if he gets the chance and he scores goals, then he can't be left out of the side, can he? That's how it
No.
works.
And he's got bags of pace. And what we need is, I heard Clive talking about this on the Arsenal Vision podcast. And you know what I think about Clive. I love Clive. He talks a lot of sense. And he said we need another sprinter up front.
Yeah.
We've got two wide sprinters. We need one more. He could be that other guy. He could be that other sprinter. We've got bags of pace. And if we get him, you know, in a similar way to those two on the sides, like Martinelli and Saka, if we get him be able to bomb down the middle as a different option, because we need a different option up front. I mean, like Steve F. comment for those listening on Spotify. So Steve F. on the screen there said, "Can't see us going for a striker. We play a flexible front three. A wide right is more of a priority." I would love to be able to use Jesus as the wide right option with Saka and get a much better, a different striker, different option as a centre forward. I just that's the way forward for me, because we can't be too much the same. Teams get scouted, obviously, and teams get worked out by other opposition. And if we're just doing like for like subs all the time, what's the point in that? You know, because we're not going to get an upper hand on any opposition by doing that. We need something different, a different
So
option.
couldn't Martinelli be that man up front? I mean,
Yeah, possibly.
He's a prolific finisher, isn't he?
Exactly, and they
His heading ability. You know,
they do interchange our front three.
yeah.
So I mean, Martinelli could be that 9, couldn't he?
Yeah.
Not the traditional target man type 9, but somebody you could play balls over the top, run in behind. He can dribble, he can beat men, you know. So he's got a lot about him, and he's a good finisher. So why couldn't he be that number 9 with Trossard on left.
And the good thing is, a lot in France, Balogun drifts over to the left quite a lot. I saw a goal recently where he whipped in a beautiful ball from the left-hand side. I was watching the game live, and beautiful cross, and someone scored from it. So yeah, I mean, that's the good thing about Balogun. He can do that, and he could interchange with Martinelli.
Yeah.
Quite a lot. So that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see because Jesus is a wonderful player. He's one of the signings of the last 10 years for us, along with Zinchenko. But he's not a prolific striker, and he can play a lot from the right-hand side. So I'd like to see him be the understudy for, be a striker, obviously, but also be an understudy for Saka when needs be, and get a different.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jesus just needs put that injury behind him now, which I think he's done now, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he'll push on next season, and he's never been a prolific striker, is he? But he does create a lot and creates confusion, doesn't he? And great situations, and he can score. So I mean, he's a first team player. He's probably one of the first names on the team sheet, probably.
And one of the things we noticed this season, because we start seeing it week in, week out, is his ball control. His pure ball
touch.
Control, first touch is amazing. Literally, no one can come close to him on that side of things this season. And it's disappointing we had to miss out on it for 3.5 months because it was bloody World Cup and the Brazil manager being a twat. But it is former Brazil manager now, obviously.
But he can go both ways, can't he? He can beat a man on both sides, can't he?
Yeah,
exactly. You compare that to Pepe, who can only beat his man on one side.
He
doesn't have
it's very wonderful. Yeah. Good thing about Pepe, then, if we ever kept it, it's just like it's an option from the bench, just for the last 20 minutes. He's a very dangerous player.
He can score a goal.
Very much so. He scored 19 in his first debut season. Don't forget, that's a really good return. 19. I mean, how much would have they loved to have got 19 goals out of Mudryk this season, or Sancho from Man United, or what's the other big winger that Anthony from Man United?
Yeah.
He's got virtually no goals. I mean, you consider Pepe got us 19 in his first season. He gets ridiculed. That is just it brings things to perspective a little bit. To be honest, I'm not saying like I said 100% times. I don't want this being clipped up and saying, "Oh, I think he's the answer," or whatever. Like that. It's not the case. If we end up having to keep him, though, it's not the end of the world. That's what I mean. And I'd rather us do that than get rid of him for free. Like, so I only brought that up again because Steve F made a comment saying Pepe could do that too when we're talking about cutting in or coming into the centre, like he used to do for us from time to time.
Yeah, before we wrap things up, because obviously we are going to wrap things up in the next 5 minutes or so. Just a comment, I've seen it in the chat and it's bugging me, so I need to address it quick before we wrap things up. I hope you don't mind. But someone called Space in the chat says, "I've had enough of this club. Let's be real. It's pathetic." I mean, how? Okay, explain to me. Please explain to me how it's pathetic. We're the only club that's competed in Man City until the last few games of the season when we fell off a bit with pressure and injuries and this, that, and the other. We went toe to toe against a club that can name 2 different teams and still be strong enough to compete, unlike anyone else in the league. Let's be brutally honest there. And the youngest, again, key point here, the youngest or second youngest team in the league or squad, and we've come second in the league. When you compare the other youngest team in the league, it's just been relegated. There's a feel-good factor in the club. The fan base, I mean, Sunday rammed it home. In terms of, we addressed it earlier in terms of, obviously, when Arteta went to do his little speech, it was 5 minutes of him standing there waiting to start his speech going and thank the fans and all that before the fans just chanting his chant over and over and over. Every fan stood at that stadium for 25, half an hour after the final whistle, after the players had done their lap of honour or appreciation, what you want to call it as well. So you must be one on your own now. With all due respect, I don't want to dig anyone out, but you must be one on your own because literally, I was speaking to someone behind me on Sunday, and they said, as a joke, obviously next season we're going to go for trouble. But I said to him, that's the thing. Arteta's brought back the belief. Edu and Arteta have worked together and have brought back that belief, that confidence in us, that we believe that we can compete again. And he said exactly, we haven't had that for so long. And just because we didn't get there over the hurdle this first time of asking, doesn't mean it's just going to be, okay, done and dusted, we're back to normality.
We're not finished.
This is just the beginning. I've said it for months.
Start.
I've said it for months. All we've got to do is add a few additions. We've mentioned in this stream, a few additions in certain areas that need to be addressed, especially with Champions League. Bulk out our squad, and we'll be pissing it next season. We'll go again and see how City compete when they've won it all and they ain't got that hunger anymore. Well, we have.
Over the last 2 seasons, we probably screwed up half a dozen games, and it cost us the Champions League place last season. It probably cost us the title this season, didn't it? Really, because if we'd have beaten City, it'd have been a different story. We wouldn't have lost the games we lost. We wouldn't have dropped points, and we're so close, more close than any other club. That's for sure.
I think it's called
where we are.
I think it's called space because you eat space cake. To be honest.
Anyway, moving on.
I mean, we're all disappointed. We're all disappointed we didn't win the league. What can you do?
Of course we are.
We gave it our best shot. And when we were 8 points clear and we had games in hand and you think, yeah, we could do it. And in the end, City went on something like 15 games on the spin, didn't they? Won 15 games on the spin or something. And we dropped a few points. And that's the difference at the end of the day.
No, exactly. And that's experience. If we had more, if our squad had the experience, had more experience in our squad, we don't do what we did in the end. We get over the line. You
don't lose 2 games. You don't draw 2 games on the spin when you're 2-0 up, do you?
No.
I mean, like the Liverpool game.
Next season, that won't happen. I guarantee it won't happen. If we're in that situation again, it won't happen. Because the players that remain would have learned from that and know that anguish. I mean, a few weeks back, when we played Newcastle away, Ramsdale at the end of the game did all his press stuff for Sky and all. He said, no, before you left the hotel, Arteta got up the clip from last season. We went to St James's Park and we lost the Champions League, basically. And he said, do you want to use this moment, use them feelings you had in that moment and make sure this doesn't happen again today? And they did. They went out and we absolutely pushed Newcastle off the park. And Newcastle at St James's Park this season isn't an easy place to go to. So there's signs of progression there, and people don't want to admit. Some people don't want to admit that. More so because it drives up his channel for being negative, but that's another matter. Because he can't. I mean, I've seen a clip today of his reactions. This particular fan's reactions to goals at the weekend, and he looked upset. He looked like he was about to cry, and not in a good way. But there's fans like myself, Steve, Andrew, Lottie, Liam, Jonesy, amongst a vast array of others, people in the chat as well, Gary as well. We look at it with a sensible head. Yes, we're disappointed. We've mentioned we are disappointed we didn't get over the line, but we have a belief in our team now, a belief in this club that this ain't a one-off. We are going to go again. We look at what happened at the back end of last season, how that sort of destroyed any other team, and we came back with a few additions and went again. And went further than where even I expected. I thought third at best. And when I said third, I thought third as in comfortable Champions League spot.
It was Champions League qualification, wasn't it? Start of the season. Yeah. That's what we wanted.
And we've gone second, and we're literally 4 or 5 points away from winning the title. And they're going to go again. I've said it since January. No matter what happened in this title race, if we didn't win this year, the worst case, I believe in this team. I believe in this squad of players that they'll come back next season, and they want to go one step further. Because I've seen it growing up. I've seen it years ago, growing up in the year 2000 under Wenger. We missed out for 3 years in a row after winning it in '98. The way we lost the FA Cup in 2001 stung so much. They came back a year later and did the double, and they were by far the best team in the league. And then when they missed out the following season on the league title. The way we fell apart in that 02-03 season in the end, instead of it letting us irk us for the following season and United having another title win, the team got together with the manager. They had a discussion over things. Came back in August of the 03-04 season, and created history that we're going to be celebrating next season. By the way, 20 years, the 20th anniversary, and they went on and won the league, and not just the league, but unbeaten as well. No one expected that in that manner. So my point is, I've seen over the years squads, world-class squads, by the way, go through this anguish, go through this pain, and they've come back stronger the following season. And I've seen it last season in terms of this particular squad. I'm not saying they're world-class, but they've gone with that pain, agony of last year, and gone again and done something they weren't expected to do. And they're going to do it again next year. I have every faith. And the media want to write us off again, so be it. I'm going to be here all season celebrating and backing my team because.
What happened with Liverpool the first time? They didn't go and shrink, did they?
No.
When they first started competing under Klopp, they had some bitter disappointments the first season or two. And then they got, 97 points, didn't win the league. They didn't sort of shrink, did they? And then they came back the next season even stronger. And they won the league, or they won the Champions League.
They added to the squad, didn't they?
Yeah,
They
exactly.
kept the nucleus and then added to, rather than dismantle and start again. And that's what players react to that, don't they? They grow with the club. The whole team grow together.
Exactly. So we're going to come back strong. We're only going to learn from this and become better from it.
And Man City will be playing in the World Cup next year anyway, so they won't be playing league football. They'll be playing the World Cup, so they won't have time for the Premier League.
Exactly.
And with that, we are going to wrap things up, guys. Thanks, Andrew, and thanks, Steve, for popping along for the last match review of the season. We'll do one more podcast before the season's out in terms of a season review overall, and with a couple of other guests. And obviously, thanks everyone in the chat throughout the whole season. Basically, that's been coming in, week out, supporting the channel, supporting the podcast, audio and visual, and all the other content throughout the year. We aren't done yet. There's a few more games to go in terms of non-Arsenal related, obviously, because there's like Europa League, Conference League, and Champions League, and a certain FA Cup final that we need sort of City to win so we can get a day out on August to Wembley. So we're all City fans somehow on Saturday, I think, just for a day out on August. That's all. Just write a few wrongs as well in August, and amongst all that, the new fixtures are down in the next couple of weeks as well for the next season. That'll be interesting to see you. Arsenal v Luton, home or away? What are the odds?
The first game on the Friday night. First game on the Friday night. Yeah, under the lights.
Under the lights at the Kenny.
Arsenal, a newly promoted side. That's it.
Going through people's houses to get into the stadium. Hi. Oh dear! But with that, we'll be wrapping up now. The audio for this will be up in about half hour's time, as always. If you are new to the channel, if you enjoy what we're doing over here, do smash that like button, do subscribe as well, do share the content around it with your friends, family, and help the community grow. Because since Sunday, we had a little realization that we have a lot of rival fans wanting to jump in on us. So, and since then, they've all just sort of slowly unsubscribed and all that, but wait for next season to come along. But if you help us grow this channel, it'll be massively appreciated. As I said, we've got a lot more content coming between now and the end of the season officially, before the pre-season gets underway and all that stuff, and other little bits and pieces I've got planned coming up on the channel as well, little uploads here and there and everywhere, including comparing this shirt with the authentic player edition. You can't get it until the 12th of June, apparently. Bastards. But they want to raise the prices. I'll doing a show on that as well, and that rubbish. But until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And as always, up the Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners.
Come on, you Gunners.
Cheers, boys. Take care.
Cheers, boys. Cheers.